Fleet Headquarters, Tokyo, Japan. Admiral Yamamoto placed the final report on top of the neat pile on his desk. He sat back in his chair reaching for his cup of coffee and downed the now cold dregs. He was satisfied as everything had mostly gone to plan. Even the casualties suffered had been far less than had been anticipated. It was a pity that no American carriers had been at Pearl Harbor, for they were what caused him the most concern. He had just read that Enterprise was at San Diego and the Lexington down in the Southern Ocean, taking part in the US occupation of the New Hebrides. That move was a slight concern as it placed the Americans within striking distance of both the Solomon and Gilbert Island chains, both of which Japan coveted to help protect their gains. The Aleutians and Midway too were targets to create a barrier against the US offensive he knew was inevitable. Once operations in the Philippines were concluded, Borneo and Peleliu could be taken to pin down the Anzac forces. Yamamoto was under no illusions about how difficult these tasks would be. For many troops and ships to transport them would be required, and for the moment, the limited assets he possessed, they would simply have to wait their turn. Vice Admiral Nagumo's carriers had done their job and would be ordered to take up a position between Wake and the Aleutians. No point leaving them exposed to a possible counter-attack. He had considered ordering them to strike at Midway, but with no troops to make a landing, it would just be a Pyrrhic victory. The Americans could quickly replace any losses, and he had no wish to risk his experienced and valuable air crews for a mere publicity stunt. His submarines would be ordered to the US West Coast to hunt for the expected glut of shipping that would inevitably be there. One could be ordered south to the New Hebrides to take any opportunity at the American fleet there. He also considered the US submarines, with so many Japanese transports with their valuable cargoes traversing the ocean at any one time. Convoys with escorts would now have to be organised. 5,000 feet above a mountain pass in the North Philippines. Lieutenant Kanoshi spotted the convoy of 3 vehicles making its way along a winding road in the twisting valley below at his 10 o'clock position. He looked out his starboard cockpit window to his wingman, Sub-Lieutenant Tagami, and gestured down and left with exaggerated hand signals. His wingman peered down and a moment later smiled and gave a thumbs up. Lieutenant Kanoshi began a lazy turn to port and put his zero into a low dive. He came up on the rear of the convoy, 2 jeeps with a half-track at the back. He landed his aircraft up to make a pass over the vehicles. At the last moment, the pintle-mounted machine gun on the half-track began to flash, its operator almost taken totally by surprise. The shooting was poor and made even worse by the driver of the vehicle jinking from side to side. Kanishi's finger pressed the firing button and a trail of bullets tore initially into the road behind the frantically weaving vehicle, but then ripped along its length, sending debris and shrapnel in all directions. He kept his finger depressed as the bullets caught up with the jeep in the middle, raking it with hot lead. The leading jeep made it around a tight bend before Kanoshi could target it. Sub-Lieutenant Tagami adjusted his course to intercept the escaping jeep, ignoring the smoking wreck of the half-track and the jeep ahead of it that had come to a halt sideways across the narrow road. The driver of the remaining jeep had his foot pressed hard on the gas pedal and was weaving crazily from side to side in the narrow valley. Tagami could see the jeep was fast approaching another tight curve in the valley road. He didn't rush, simply lined his aircraft up, and just before the vehicle rounded the curve, he unleashed a hail of lead that tore into the jeep. The vehicle didn't turn, its driver already dead. Instead, it hit the valley wall at full speed and flipped over onto its back. The fuel tank ignited in a fireball. A dark plume of oily black smoke rose into the air. The men trapped beneath the jeep being incinerated by the blast and cascade of burning fuel that covered them. What Sub-Lieutenant Takami did not know was that he had just eliminated the officer commanding United States forces in the Philippines, General Douglas MacArthur. Right, so the story continues. It's now the end of the Japanese combat phase, so I'll show what I intend to do, although I won't move the pieces, or not all of them anyway. Right. The Philippines did fall. The two infantry in the north being attacked by shell bombardment from both the Yamato, the Haruna and a destroyer, plus the air wing of the Akagi, as well as 4 infantry and an artillery piece, simply succumbed. They did, however, manage to take out one of the Japanese infantry that were attacking, but now the Philippines has fallen, and the Philippines is worth, I can't remember how much, 2 I think, so that'll be added to their total next time. This transport, it never put the troops ashore in the Philippines. It's actually moved south 2 more spaces now. Is it heading for the southern part of the Philippines, or is it going for Borneo, or maybe even New Guinea? We don't know as yet. Other non-combat modes, well, this freighter what was on its way back is now at Japan. Same with this one, 1-2. They're there. This freighter can start making its way back to Japan. That moves it 2. This freighter's now finished its job. Mind you, it's just it landed there, so it can't move yet. So forget that one. This Japanese submarine is going to go 1-2. Right. The Japanese submarines are going to go for the American West Coast. So what I'm going to do, that one's going south, 1-2. That one's going to go 1-2. 1-2. Now, when you get situations like this, and here, where we've got 2 units, in this case it's submarines, but they're in the same space. Now, one of these squares represents thousands of square miles, thousands of square nautical miles of space. The chances of the 2 ships, let alone submarines, bumping into each other is pretty infinitesimal. So what I'm going to do to try and nullify that, because we've got a God's eye view of the map, we can see where every soldier, ship, airplane is. There was no spy satellites back then, they didn't know that. You only found them by searching. So what I'm doing on an occasion like this would be to roll a d6. And then if the d6 is a 6, they've found the target. Even that's great odds, because a 1 in 6 chance in thousands of square miles of oceans is pretty good going. Exceptions will be such as carriers, because the carriers would have aircraft surrounding on patrol, protecting the carriers, so they can spot something 2 sea zones away, we'll say 2 sea zones away, to make that for them. Right, the other non-contact combat move will be the carrier strike force will move 1, it's there, 1, 2, so we'll move it here onto the P of Pacific, I'll remember that. That's going to be their non-combat move. Right, in their turn, the Japanese had $23 to spend after capturing before. They paid $10 for a fighter, another 10 for a destroyer, and 1 infantry for 3 for 23. So He should, not Timothy, he should be on there. So he's going to join there on the Japanese mainland, which is where he's going to have to go. The destroyer is in Tokyo Bay, and the aircraft is here. Oh, what I did forget to do, this aircraft which we bought last time, he's flying to Saipan, 1, 2, 3, Saipan. So he's now on Saipan. And next turn, he's going to go to Wake, and this aircraft we've just purchased, next turn, he can take up that location in Saipan. So that's their move. Reinforcement moves. We've now got quite a few, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Japanese infantry here. We've got a tank. Japanese destroyers are allowed to carry 1 infantry. The Americans aren't. Nobody else is, but for some reason in this game the Japanese carriers can carry 1 infantry. Obviously transports 2. So we've got the potential to transport all 5 of these units. And we're quite concerned about, for instance, the Kuril Island and the Aleutians. Because if the Americans, I haven't really told you how you win this game. For the Japanese, it's simple. There's 2 ways they can, well, 3. The obvious way is if they can gather enough territories to give them an income of $40 for a full turn, that includes the Americans' following turn, they still hold $40 worth of territory, and that's a lot of territory. They'll win the game automatically. The second way is, obviously, you cause so many losses to the enemy, they have no choice but to surrender, to give in. And the third way, and it's pretty unlikely, is if the Japanese can capture the west coast of the United States and hold it for a full turn. Pretty unlikely, but it's a possible way of winning. For the Americans, it's 2 ways. Again, if you beat you should cause them so many casualties, it's just no point carrying on, you win. But for the Americans, it's bombing Japan, but it has to be a heavy bomber. And it has to do a successful raid, not get shot down, drop its bombs, and then return to a base. Now, heavy bombers can fly of a range of 6. So, for instance, if we had a bomber base here in the Aleutians at Atsu or Kiska, 1, 2, 3, bomb, 1, 2, 3, back. And what that bombing rate simulates is the strategic bombing that the Americans did on Japan. But ultimately, of course, it was the dropping of the 2 atomic bombs. And that's what this is simulating. So if the Americans could get air bases here in the Aleutians or even here on the Kuril Islands and successfully bomb Japan, that's the end of the game and the Americans would win. So I think that's it. Waffled on long enough. So we'll stop there and we'll come back in the next part. I've got the next part scripted right now, and next turn of course will be American turn 2, and we'll see what they're going to do. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.